thanks for joining us. I'm going to start with Twitter. No offense to Richard, because Twitter is so core to the sports world these days. All the news breaks on here. I think Aaron Gordon's new deal, I saw him in here earlier, broke on here. We have Mark Spears in the back. Big fan, Mark. So thanks for all the Twitter news. So just to break it down, I feel like there's two categories of sports streaming and sports news right now through Amazon and Twitter. There's the live streaming element where you could actually watch a game. Maybe it's an NBA game, a WNBA game, an MLB game, NFL game. But there's also the original content side. I know Twitter was pretty well integrated in the app with the NBA Finals. You could see the box score on the top, the play-by-play, and then you could get live tweets with commentary from people from ESPN and the live show after that. So why don't we break it down by starting, what is Twitter doing on the sports side right now? What are your different offerings? How are you integrated?
Absolutely. So as you noted, Twitter is really core to the sports experience. It stands to reason, right? Because sports really is something that has to be, by and large, consumed live. And because Twitter is a place where people come to see what's happening in the world in the moment, it lends itself beautifully to the sports experience. So what we're doing now is really the continuation of what we've been doing over the past several years, which is working with our content partners to make sure that all of the conversation that's happening around these things that are happening in the world are enriched even further by video content that our content partners provide. And so what that does is it makes the experience even that much better for fans because they get all this great content, you know, those amazing dunks, they get to see them again and again and again. They can share them with their followers, they can create memes about them, they can talk about them on our platform. And what it does for our content partners is it gives them extended distribution to a new audience that is getting harder and harder to reach. They're younger, they're more mobile, they're more global. So our content partners get that complementary reach to what they're seeing on broadcast. And what they also get is a proven model of monetization. So what we've been doing over the past 5 years is partnering together with all of the major leagues, teams, and broadcasters to bring their content to the Twitter platform and allow advertisers to sponsor that content and put it into the timelines of their targeted audiences. So, you know, that extends, again, the reach of the partner's content. It helps those advertisers reach the audiences that they're looking to reach. They're really the most valuable audiences when they're most receptive on Twitter because they're there to see and talk about what's happening.
Well, and Richard, obviously, we know Amazon, of all the big tech companies, is sort of at the forefront of the original video streaming, and Amazon has started diving in a bit with sports. There was the Thursday Night Football deal. Can you talk us through what Amazon's take is on sports and where you want to see sports integration going with Prime?
Sure, thank you. So Amazon has been offering digital video for several years now, and our focus has really been on premium content. And so our customers who go to the Prime Video app on their devices, whether it's a phone or a tablet or a TV, are looking for great content to watch. And we've been primarily focused on movies and TV shows, and we will continue with an effort there. But sports is a new category for us, as you said, Mark. And the reason that we're looking at it is we know a lot of our Prime members are sports fans. And sports is the definition of premium content. And so it's an area that we're starting to get into. You mentioned Thursday Night Football last season. We're going to be streaming Thursday Night Football again this season to customers in the US and around the world. And we have other sports offerings as well.
Cool. So whenever you sign up for a new cable company, you might look at it based on regionally. So if you're living in Los Angeles and you want to watch Laker games, you have to get Spectrum. If you are in San Francisco, you have to get the local network if you want to watch the non-nationally televised Warriors games. But if you just want to buy one single package to subscribe to all of the local games, it's sort of all over the place depending on where you are. There's League Pass, it covers some of that. What can Twitter and Amazon do more of specifically for NBA games or other leagues in terms of tapping into local teams? Is there potential for direct deals with a team, for example? Because right now the cable companies have some of the direct TV right deals. What about the major tech companies?
Yeah, I mean, from Twitter's perspective, we really see the opportunities for our content partners being having live content be part of a multi-dimensional strategy, because certainly it's great to watch the games and participate in the conversation that's happening around them, and where we can, where the rights allow, we certainly pursue those partnerships. But we also see a huge opportunity in having the highlights and the moments outside of the game window that fans are also really talking about. And as I said before, we're also selling sponsorship around this content. And what advertisers really want to do is surround that full fan experience. So that happens during the live window, but it also happens throughout the conversation about each sport and each team. We do have, like I said, both league relationships and team relationships. The teams, depending on the league, there's certain permissions that they're being given to distribute highlights on our platform as well. So the lion's share of the teams in all the major leagues are doing that, and we have an opportunity for them to make money as they do that as well.
Got it.
Yeah, and I think with the technology companies streaming video, whether it's in shorter form or longer form, there's definitely opportunity to innovate and provide different experiences. In terms of your question specifically on kind of opportunities and rights, a lot of the rights are locked up in long-term deals, and so that makes navigating kind of what's possible in the shorter term a little more challenging. But you mentioned NBA League Pass as an example, and there are other direct-consumer, over-the-top digital subscription services that we think are really exciting. And so at Amazon, we offer not only content that you can watch as a customer in Prime Video for no extra charge, but we also make content available to watch through subscriptions, through our Prime Video channels business. And with channels, what you can do is subscribe to subscriptions like an HBO or a CBS All Access and consume it all within your Prime Video app. And Amazon's actually providing the back-end infrastructure and handling all the customer service and kind of elements of managing the subscription. But in the UK and in Germany, we launched with Discovery Eurosport as an a la carte linear channel you can subscribe to. And it just broadens selection for our customers. We're trying to bring more and more content to our service, not requiring people to sign up to big packages or anything like that, but giving flexibility and choice. And we launched our channels business in Japan a couple of months ago. And one of the channels that we offer is called JSport, and they aggregate different types of sports content, including motorsports, rugby, and a few others as well. So there's a couple different ways that we're looking to make different types of sports content available.
Now, what about, we talked about Japan and Europe, what about in the US? I know Twitter has had some ties with ESPN, particularly around the playoffs and the NBA Finals. What about an ESPN section or another sports network in the Prime Video, in the channel section, in addition to Showtime and HBO? Do you think we'll eventually get sports in there as well?
Our goal is to offer broad selection. And so any of the services that are available today, we would love to partner with them to make them available to our customers. I think what the thing is that we're seeing customers looking for in terms of their video experiences, the thing that's worked so well for the pay TV business for decades is you turn your TV on and you know your favorite channels, and it's really easy to start watching whatever it is that you want. Sometimes I think there's a little bit too much friction with the different options available to us now in this kind of digital age, where if you turn your TV on, or if you take your phone and you have like 8 apps or 15 apps you're trying to navigate, that can be a little bit cumbersome. And so what we've tried to do is try to create a little easier to navigate experience, and offering a lot of different selection and driving discovery around that has been really working for us.
What's for both Twitter and Amazon, what's the long-term vision for sports? Do you eventually see breaking sports out into its own individual app, whether that's on a phone or on a Fire TV or an Apple TV? Do you think it's always going to be integrated? Do you think it should be its own thing as it continues to grow, this merger of technology and sports? Where do you see sports on your platforms in 3, 5, and even 10 years from now?
Yeah, I mean, I would say sports is going to continue to be one of the most dominant things on our platform, because it really does play into the DNA that is Twitter. And I see that, continuing into the future. I also think that sports has the advantage of being part of our lives, not just as the games themselves, but sports has ramifications over many more aspects of our lives. And so I think the conversation around that is not sticking to sports. It's full-featured. So I think we are going to continue down the path of making sure that fans continue to come to our platform. We super serve them with a product experience that gets them, to your point, to the content that they're looking for, and gives them the best conversation around it.
We know that our Prime members in the US and around the world are really passionate sports fans, and so we want to offer content for them to watch within our Prime Video service. And I think over time, there's opportunities for us to really not only expand the breadth of content we make available through different ways, whether it's us licensing exclusive rights in Prime Video or us offering channels that you can subscribe to for an incremental fee. But there are a lot of other integrations you can imagine us looking at, whether it's retail or otherwise, that could really make an immersive experience.
So let's talk about business models, right? Because we have Richard and Laura, totally two different ways of making money here. Twitter, obviously, is a free service. There's no subscription. If I want to tap into any of the live deals, I can just watch it on the Twitter app if I have an account. But on the Amazon side...
Actually, sorry to interrupt you, but it's actually for logged in and logged out users.
Okay, so logged in and logged out users. But
so, big audience.
On the Amazon side, it's part of a Prime subscription, right? Is this part of a base Prime subscription at that normal, it's the $99 a year?
It's $119, right?
Right.
And in the US.
Right.
And Thursday Night Football is an example, and we're streaming AVP beach volleyball as well here in the US. Is available as part of the Prime membership for no extra charge. We're going to be streaming the US Open tennis tournament in a few weeks in the UK to our customers there, as well as ATP professional men's tennis events next year in the UK as well, all part of Prime.
So, questions for each of you. On the Twitter side, do you ever foresee a time where you sort of break out a Twitter sports type of app or network subscription service where someone could pay, I don't know, $10, $20, $30 a month to get access to all these sports-specific channels and content, whether that's live streams and news, sort of a new revenue driver for Twitter?
I think, for the time being, our focus is laser on our business model, which has been working really well for the past several years. And, as we look forward, our priority is really growing and building on that model.
And on the Amazon side, do you ever foresee a time breaking sports out, right? So breaking sports out into its own thing, where it's not specifically part of Prime within your Prime subscription, its own thing, a cheaper subscription that you don't have to make specifically as part of Prime?
I don't think so. I think our current plans are to integrate sports content and have sports be one of several different types of content you can consume. And our goal is to try to make the experience as personalized as possible. And so it is easy for you to get up and running. And so what you may see, Mark, when you open up your Fire TV as an example, could in many ways be different than what I see, depending upon what it is, not only that we are entitled to, but what we're interested in based on what we've watched.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, I would say on the Twitter side, similarly, we're doing the same sorts of things. I mean, for me, as such a huge sports fan, effectively, Twitter is my sports app, right? Because I'm following so many sports handles, I'm consuming so much sports content, that Twitter knows me and knows that when I come to the app, what we should be surfacing to me is the sports content that I should be most interested in.
What about a sports section, right? Because it knows that I follow, ESPN, all these, NBA players and teams and whatnot. But what about a section, like a news section, just for sports?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I've been in the interactive business for a long time now, and I think over time, what people tend to learn is that it's hard to move people into one specific destination. You need to create your digital experience, weave it into the existing experience that your user is having. And so to the extent that we can do that, and we've started to do a lot of things in this area. So for example, you hopefully have started to see when you open your Twitter app, we have a module at the top now called What's Happening. And that is programmed by machine learning based on what we know about you and your interests on our app. So that is going to drive you into what we think you're going to be interested in and effectively becomes your sports section.
And what about notifications? Obviously, that's a big thing right now, and both on the Twitter side and Amazon side. What more can you do on interactivity and notifications to drive people into live events? Maybe a notification like you get in the NBA app, like the game is close.
Yep.
See what such and such has to say about it. Could you do more on that? Can Amazon do more of that in the Prime app or on the set-top boxes? Where do you see that going?
I think the answer is yes, for sure. It's just still kind of early days for us as we continue to think about how to engage our customer base and notify them kind of in a timely way. Our service has been an on-demand focused service, and so there hasn't really been a kind of a timeliness element to it, right? When you want to start binge watching a show, you just turn on the app and start playing something. But with sports, obviously, it's very different. And so we've started to do some notifications around mobile and otherwise for sports. But there's a lot of work, I think, to be done there. And I think, in answer to your other question, we continue to listen to our customers in terms of getting feedback from them on the user experience and what things that they interact with a lot and what things that we can improve on. And you can bet that we will continue to make changes to our app and our service to make it easier for people to discover content, especially content that's really timely. On Fire TV, as an example, we introduced an On Now kind of carousel, which, again, the focus has primarily been around on-demand, so there really hasn't been any need for what's on now. But trying to showcase, the kind of content that's already that's available, and we're going to continue to do that over time.
Yeah, I would say same for us. So we already have the capability for partners when they tweet out the fact that they have a live stream coming up. You can click on a set reminder button. So it sets a reminder and gives you a notification when that content is live. We're starting to experiment much more, to your point, around there's even more that we can do, knowing what we know about our users, notifying them when things are happening.
So, and this is for you, Laura, what do you want to be? Like, we're watching the NBA Finals. Do you want us to be watching it on our big screen TV in our living room and then have the Twitter app in our hand to see the live commentary on it? Or do you want it to be both, right? What does Twitter prefer to be? Is it going to be both? Is it going to be one? What's the transition going to look like? What are the NBA Finals this year going to look like besides Warriors versus Celtics, probably?
I'll make no predictions there, but what I will say is,
no offense to anyone else in the room. Yeah.
We talk a lot at Twitter about jobs to be done and what is the job that our users are hiring us for. And it really just depends on where they are and what they need. So there's also an old saying that people will tend to gravitate towards the best screen available. So if I'm at home, I am probably going to be watching on my 50-inch big screen TV, and I've got Twitter to have the complimentary conversation at the same time. But if I'm out at the grocery store, or if you're a parent at your kid's soccer game, you want the ability to follow along with that conversation wherever you happen to be. So we will continue to do that job for our users wherever they happen to be.
And in terms of on Twitter NBA streaming, are there live streams right now?
So we have,
how much?
Yep, we're in the second year of a 2-year partnership with the NBA. We've actually been partners with them for many, many years. Our current deal is currently in its second year. And we have 2 live shows that were created by the NBA in partnership with Turner exclusively for Twitter. So one is The Starters, which is the Twitter broadcast of the Starters show that they have on NBA TV, and then the other is called The Warm-Up, which is sometimes we call it the pregame to the pregame. So it's on Thursday nights ahead of the lineup on TNT. And those shows have both been very successful, both from a viewer perspective, but also advertisers have loved getting involved in it because the NBA has been, I do not like to play favorites, but I must say that the NBA has been one of our most innovative partners. They always say to us, whenever you have something new, we want to be first to try it. A lot of you who have been on Twitter for a long time may recall that back in the day, it used to be that if you wanted to watch a video on Twitter, it was a link, and you had to click that link, and then maybe even another and another before you got to see the video. About 4 years ago, we launched what we call native video, so it's pre-expanded in your timeline. The NBA was the very first content partner to tweet native video. So that's just one of many examples of how progressive they have been, and they continue to do so with their live content.
And Richard, are you guys working with the NBA? In what capacity? And beyond that, as someone who's very core to the video streaming industry in sports, how do you think the NBA is doing in terms of streaming and technology, and how are they compared to the NFL and the MLB and the MLS and the other major leagues?
So we do work with the NBA. There's nothing for me to announce today or anything, but we work closely with them on a lot of different things here in the U.S. and also internationally. I think sports leagues, get it. They need to make sure that the product that they offer is relevant across age groups and demographics, and also not just with the U.S. focus. NBA has been, very forward-thinking in not just elements of making the game exciting, keeping it relevant, keeping it kind of at the cutting edge of technological advancement, but also looking internationally for growth. But I would say the other leagues are also very much thinking that way, and looking to leverage whether it's technology or innovation to help drive that and kind of tell that story. The previous discussion this morning about storytelling, I think, goes to everything that we're doing at our companies as well. It's about giving our customers things to engage with because they find it compelling. And so I think there will be a lot of exciting innovations to come from the NBA and other leagues as well.
Yeah, I think the point you make about the international aspect is a super important one. Most of our league partners are really exploring strategies of how they can grow internationally, and so the ability to work with platforms that provide a global audience is super important to them. I should have remembered to mention that we are live streaming WNBA games as I sit here in my Elena Deladon kicks. And when we stream those WNBA games, we get tweets from all over the world saying, thank you so much. There's no other way that I could watch my favorite players play. We get tweets from the players because the WNBA unfortunately doesn't get as much visibility, obviously, as the NBA. And so, to have that visibility on a platform like ours is super important to those players and that league.
So how's that going? WNBA plus the other sports leagues that you stream. How many people are tuning into these games? Which games are getting the highest viewership? Are people watching the game and flipping in and out? Are they only tuning in for maybe the fourth quarter or down the stretch in the 8th or 9th inning? What's going on there?
Yeah, so our numbers on average for WNBA are about 800,000 per game. Some of the games have exceeded 1 million viewers, which is super, super exciting. It definitely varies league to league. And again, like we were saying earlier, it really depends in terms of, if you're sitting at home, you may be watching on TV and you're using Twitter as your complement. But if you are out and about, your chances are you're watching the stream on Twitter for a longer period of time.
And what about, let's say, in the NBA Finals? You can't stream the NBA Finals game specifically, but you can follow along.
Yep.
Was the previous NBA Finals the most tuned into game, or what was the most tuned into game in that regard that you had on the platform? So
we get a ton of conversation around the finals. We don't necessarily publish conversation figures for each game, but I can say without a doubt, obviously there's huge conversation around the finals. I will also say that because NBA Twitter, and NBA Twitter is a thing, because NBA Twitter is so vibrant and vocal, and there's so much conversation around it, there's actually, I believe last year, we published the fact that there was more conversation around the free agency period and the offseason than there was during the playoffs and finals. It just stands to reason because there are so many moves being made, there are Woj bombs being dropped, there's just a ton of conversation all the time. So it's not just during those fantastic moments during the finals, but it's all the time. So for Twitter, going beyond the actual games and streaming, the use case is clear. We have the news, we have the commentary, we have the box scores. What more can Amazon do? Let's say we get to the point where we're able to watch, or I'm able to watch a Laker game on Amazon Prime, or you're watching an NFL game as well. What can you do more beyond just
watching the the core content?
Well, I think for us, we've really looked to innovate on what that experience is to watch. And so, first of all, being able to do so in a friction-free way across all the devices you have. And so the example using, I think that's right, a lot of people will want to watch on the biggest screen, the best screen they have at their house. But if they're out and about, they want to also not miss the action. And so being able to watch on your phone is really important. But we've spent a lot of years developing different types of technology and features that really improve the viewing experience. And so if you guys have ever used Prime Video and the X-ray feature on it, you can be watching a movie or a TV show, and by calling up X-ray, learn kind of about what other movies the actors have been in and other kind of trivia and things like that. You can imagine us in sports looking to think expansively about ways we can continue to innovate on providing interesting information for the viewer, but also being mindful not to interrupt the viewing experience. We want to make sure that is something that we can deliver in a very clean way. So I think for us, it's very much focusing on the content because that's what our customers are looking for.
And I'll play deal maker here. What can Amazon and Twitter do together in sports?
There's probably lots of different ideas. We should go get a coffee
later.
after.
And I'll watch.
Sure.
Yeah. What can you do more with athletes, right? You see athletes and business people and everyone just doing more and more and more, whether that's to promote their brand or social causes, through Twitter, through Instagram stories, Facebook, Snap. It's clear that probably every athlete in this room has a Twitter account.
If you don't, come see me.
What more can you do with athletes? How can you better promote athletes? How can you bring them into the conversation more strongly, not only in their own league, but sports in general?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would say Twitter is, because of the nature of the platform, it's an opportunity for athletes to really talk to fans about what's important to them. So that can be anything from J.J. Watt raising millions and millions of dollars for the hurricane victims to players who are interested in being traded. So via subtweets. So it really runs the gamut in terms of what you can leverage the power of our platform for. We even have monetization opportunities that we can talk to you about. We have a woman on my team. Several of you work with her already, I think, Brittany Cranston. She's fantastic. She works regularly with teams and players, both through our league relationships, but also, if as an individual you want to consult with us on how to take best advantage of the platform to get your message out, to grow your fan base, we're all ears and we're happy to help.
What about integrating stats and rosters and news for particular players and teams? So, for example, if I go to Andre's Twitter account, what if, in addition to how many people he follows, how many followers he has, it could say, here are the stats over the past 10 games. Here's news about Andre. Here are highlights. What about integrating what about turning Twitter profiles of athletes into interactive digital, player cards, like from back in the day?
Yeah, it's an interesting idea. I mean, I would say our first product priority is playing into the live nature and value proposition of our platform. So that deeper level of research about a particular player, I don't know that we would do that in the short term. Really our primary priorities, like I said, are how are we creating an experience for people to instantly see what's happening when it's happening in the world on Twitter.
And Richard, on the Amazon side, is there more that can be done with athletes individually beyond the leagues? I know you're less news focused and more focused on the content, but do you think there's opportunities there for content specific to individual athletes to promote their messages, their teams,
I think
their
the
causes?
answer is yes. So if, as athletes think about things that they're looking to do in the video space, it could be long form or short form, there are different ways to get that content onto Prime Video. And so our studios team works with a lot of different creators to develop really premium programming that we will make available to Prime members as part of Prime Originals and our own development. But we also have a program called Prime Video Direct, where it's meant to be really a self-service way for content owners, rights holders, content creators to put up their content, make it available in Prime Video for our Prime members in the US and around the world to watch. And so if athletes have projects that they're working on that are video projects, there are Prime Video Direct and other ways to potentially get onto Prime Video.
And last question, real quick. Right now, sports is all over the place in terms of streaming. You can get League Pass, you can subscribe to ESPN+, Fubo TV, and obviously what Twitter and Amazon are doing. How far are we away from one of us being able to subscribe just to Amazon to get all of our sports, or subscribe or tune in just to Twitter to get all of our sports? Is this 5 years away? Is this 10 years away? When could we subscribe to one place to get everything we want in the sports world?
Right. I think it's a little bit hard to predict that. Many of the deals that are long-term deals, as you know, Mark, that Laura and I are dealing with as well and kind of living in. But I think increasingly the trend toward consumers, fans of sports, watching through digital, on a Fire TV and Apple TV and other devices, I think is a trend that's just going to continue, and watching on their phones. And so the ability for us to aggregate that content, I think, is only going to increase over time. And so I think it's really exciting for kind of the opportunity for kind of the next kind of chapter of being able to watch sports content in an aggregated way. It's really hard to tell exactly when it's going to happen.
Yeah, I would echo that. It's very difficult. I would also say that our aspiration is not to displace our partners who already have those rights. Our aspiration, and what we've already been doing and what we're looking to continue to do, is to be a complement to our partners who have those rights. So we are extending their audience. We are, like I said earlier, it's a younger audience, it's mobile. We're extending that for them, and we're giving them the opportunity to have their content be in an environment where the content and the conversation live together, which is super unique. So that's going to continue to be our focus, we're excited to have all of you along for the ride.
And Mark, on our devices, our Fire TV devices as an example, you can watch all those sports because we offer all the different sports, direct consumer services, as well as many of the kind of virtual MVPDs that you were referencing. So you can already do that in an aggregated way on these new devices.
Cool. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.